can't believe you're chatting on the computer for ages while your husband's starving here. That's what my husband said as he entered my room, not hiding his sullen mood, and engaged me in conversation in a low voice. Right now, I'm in the middle of a remote meeting. I glare at my husband, hoping it would keep my client away from overhearing, but it's ineffective. I'm telling you I'm hungry. What's with the ignoring? Stop wasting time with pointless chats and get the meal ready. I try to mute my mic in a rush, but my husband's footsteps get closer. Hey, don't you dare ignore your master, you slave. My foot hurts. He kicked my right foot, the one I just fractured, and is still pressing down on it. The cast hasn't been removed yet. But he doesn't care and kicks my foot repeatedly. I wince in pain. He points towards the kitchen. The one who finally spoke to this man, who only cares about his food, was me. My name is Karen. I work in a corporate office. I met Joseph through work when I was 26 and we started dating. Joseph was 10 years older than me, but I was attracted to his mature, calm demeanor and kindness. When we were dating, Joseph was always gentle, and we hardly ever argued. We got married after 2 years of dating without any major issues. I thought it was the happiest time of my life. But then, Joseph's attitude changed overnight. That day, I was late from work and hurried back from the supermarket. Joseph had already gotten home and was relaxing on the couch, watching TV. I'm home. You're already back, Joseph. I just bought groceries, I'll quickly make you dinner. When I spoke to Joseph, he turned to me with a sullen face. You're late. You're going to cook now? I'm starving here. Stop wasting time. His words were unlike anything I'd heard from him before. We had been living together before marriage, and usually, when I had to work late and he got home early, Joseph would naturally prepare dinner for us. When I thanked him, he would always smile gently and say, "It's only natural since we both work." But the Joseph in front of me now seemed like a completely different person. Come to think of it, today when I texted him on WhatsApp, "I'll be late because of overtime," he read it but didn't reply. Before, he would have replied, "I can leave on time today, so I'll prepare dinner." Or, "I might be late too, should we order delivery or eat out?" Feeling puzzled by Joseph's attitude, I tried to ask him indirectly, trying to sound as casual as possible. "Hey, Joseph, you seem a bit off today. Is something wrong?" Then Joseph, with a look of annoyance, dropped a bombshell. "Now that I'm married, I don't need to be nice to you anymore." What? I was stunned, being unable to comprehend. Seeing my reaction, Joseph burst into laughter. "I was nice to you because we weren't married. But now that I am, we're doing things my way. From today, you're my slave. That's final." What's that supposed to mean? I was dumbfounded by Joseph's words. Also, the laundry's not done, and the bath hasn't been cleaned. Obviously, you'll do all that. And make dinner within 20 minutes. Hey, don't just stand there, get moving. He shouted and turned back to the TV. While being utterly bewildered, I somehow managed to do the household chores. Just like him, I was hungry. I tried to calm myself down while cooking. But when the meal was ready, "It's bland and tastes awful," he complained about my cooking. When I did the laundry, "I don't like the way you fold clothes," he got angry. Finally, when I thought I had a moment of peace, Joseph demanded a massage. Exhausted both in body and spirit, I couldn't refuse his intimidating demand and gave him the massage. Rather than anger, I was more confused by his complete change in behavior. Even as I massaged him, he complained, "You're weak, you're terrible at this." But the next day, and the day after, Joseph continued to treat me like a slave. I hoped he would return to the kind Joseph I knew, but there was no sign of that. I couldn't stand his behavior anymore, and naturally thought about divorce. However, I had lost both my parents in an accident when I started working, had no other family to turn to, and had sold my childhood home when I got married. We hadn't had a wedding, but had spent quite a bit on moving and furnishing the house. If I left at this moment, I'd have to live in a hotel until I found a place, and I had no idea how much that would cost. So, I secretly started preparing for divorce, planning to leave once I had another place to go. Joseph continued to verbally abuse me every day. No matter what I did, I was scolded, always hearing, "I'm disciplining a bad wife. It's for your own good." I felt nothing but disgust. One day, as Joseph came home late without letting me know, I had already finished dinner and bathing. When he arrived, "Why did you eat without waiting for me? Women should wait for their men. And you should bathe after the man. You really are hopeless." He spewed various sarcastic remarks. Furious at his words, I almost talked back, but I endured his words for leaving as soon as I'm ready in the future. Just until I find a new place, I kept telling myself like a mantra. Then, one morning, Joseph gave me morning greetings by saying, "Hey, the shirt's wrinkled. Can't you even iron properly?" I had fallen asleep exhausted without ironing the day before. Feeling self-loathing for letting him take advantage of me, I hurriedly ironed and got ready for work. When I opened the door, it was raining outside. Our apartment was on the second floor, so I used the stairs. As usual, I went down the familiar path, but slipped on the wet stairs and fell down to the first floor. The pain was like nothing I had ever felt before. And I realized something terrible had happened. When Joseph came out of the entrance, I called out to him for help. "I fell and hurt my leg. It hurts so much I can't move." Joseph looked at me and frowned. "I'm late for work because I waited for your ironing. You're fine. I'm going to work." Saying that, Joseph sighed and walked past me. No way. I shed tears from the disappointment in Joseph and the pain in my leg. Then, a resident on the first floor heard the noise and came to check, promptly calling an ambulance for me. The examination revealed that I had fractured my right leg. I went through a surgery, was put in a cast, and had to recuperate at home. During my several weeks of hospitalization, Joseph only visited me once. And that was not to show concern, but to complain. "You're making too much of a fuss over a fracture. You're my slave, so hurry back and do the housework. I mean, I came here because you unnecessarily called my office, and you don't even apologize for the inconvenience." After ranting like that, he left without listening to anything I had to say. Though I knew it, not a single word of concern for me came out from Joseph's mouth. I had called his office in the first place because I couldn't reach him on his cell phone, no matter how many times I tried. I needed to inform him that I would be away from home for a while, anticipating that he would be angry if I didn't. Sighing repeatedly, I realized life without Joseph was stress-free and happy. Determined to divorce him once I was discharged, I focused on my treatment. Soon, I was discharged. When I returned home, the room was a complete mess. It seemed Joseph had hardly done any housework. Although it was within my expectations, I was surprised he could live in such a condition. I still had the cast on and couldn't move freely for about a week, but I started to do some housework bit by bit. I had explained my situation to my company when I was hospitalized, and they had kindly switched me to remote work, considering the difficulty of commuting with my injured leg. A few days later, while I was in a remote meeting, Joseph slowly entered the room. "Look at you, chatting on the computer while your husband is starving." I could not let my clients hear this. I glared at Joseph, who then turned red. "What's that look on your face?" and shouted. Realizing this was hopeless, I reached for the mouse to mute the microphone, but Joseph stomped over, making a noise. "Don't you dare ignore your master, you slave!" He kicked my right leg saying that. He even stepped on the cast with his full weight. "Hey, hurry up and prepare the meal and the bath." Besides his anger, he kept kicking my not yet healed leg, causing me to groan in pain. "Flirting with other men after all this trouble you've caused me? You still don't understand who you belong to." Then, my partner on the meeting call spoke up sternly to Joseph. "Is that all you have to say?" Joseph was startled by the voice and turned to look at the person on the computer screen. "The man with whom I am having a remote meeting is in the picture." Joseph looked at the person on the screen and suddenly, he started to tremble. It was a man from the company I was dealing with, named James. "James, are you in the middle of a meeting?" Joseph asked in a quavering voice. Actually, my company and Joseph's company were in business relations, and James was Joseph's boss. "Yes. More importantly, I heard you took a leave for caregiving, saying you need to take care of your wife who's struggling with daily life due to a fracture." "It certainly doesn't look like that," said James to Joseph. His voice, even through the screen, was filled with anger and disappointment. Yes, Joseph had taken several days off claiming to care for me, but in reality, he had just been sleeping at home. He hadn't cared for me, let alone done any housework, just lying around watching TV. "No way! I'm taking care of her. I just got angry because she was ignoring me and talking to another man." Joseph made a clumsy excuse while sweating, but James slowly shook his head. "Who do you think would believe such an excuse? While domestic abuse is a private matter, taking leave under false pretenses is unacceptable." James glared at Joseph intensely. "Leave the room now," he said. "You're interrupting our meeting." Told off by James, Joseph left the room, pale-faced. Then, James and I agreed to have another remote meeting on a different day. "There's a chance he might become violent again," he warned sternly, and I ended the call, feeling grateful to James. Joseph, having realized that the call had ended due to the absence of any voices in the room, came to me in anger and complained. "Why do I have to suffer because of you? I just got a promotion offer. If I lose it because of this, it's your fault. Slaves don't mess with their masters. Do not push me." Until now, I would have been terrified of Joseph in this state and would have just apologized and waited for him to calm down. But what I had just witnessed gave me strength. Remembering Joseph trembling in front of James, I felt this was the moment. I sighed loudly enough for Joseph to hear and said in a cold voice, "Let's get a divorce." I had been planning to bring up the divorce anyway, as I had already set my sights on a new place. Joseph looked surprised for a moment, but then laughed mockingly. "Huh? What are you talking about? You have nowhere to return to. You have no parents or relatives to rely on. You have no choice but to live as my slave. Instead of wasting time with such lame jokes, go and convince James that I'm not the bad guy. This is no joke. I hate the idea of living as your slave. I decided long ago to divorce you, and now that everything is ready, please let's get divorced." As I spoke calmly, Joseph seemed to finally realize I was serious and, his face turning red with anger, he shouted, "Don't be ridiculous. I will never allow a divorce. What do you think I was doing being nice to you during our 2 years of dating? I finally got my slave. I will never let you go. Do you want to be kicked again? If you won't agree to a divorce, I'll send the audio of your abuse to James. That'll do more than just jeopardize your promotion. Your company is strict about compliance, after all." "You recorded this?" Joseph's eyes widened in astonishment. "Yes, but I won't tell you where the recording device is hidden. It would be bad if you took it away from me. Even if you try to force me to tell you where it is, it's useless. If you touch me even a little from now on, I will immediately call the police," I declared firmly, staring him down. After a moment of silence, Joseph gruffly said, "Yeah, I don't want to be with someone like you. Divorce it is then. You have a few days to leave. I'll stay in a hotel until then, so be gone when I get back." Joseph left the house. Relieved. Good, now I can get divorced. I smiled and said. Actually, the recording was a lie. It was a spur-of-the-moment lie because he reacted more strongly to divorce than I expected. Relieved that the divorce would go through, I felt a surge of happiness. In the next few days, I packed my belongings, got the cast off my leg, and successfully signed a contract for the new house I had been eyeing. I left the divorce papers on the table filled out by me, and completed my move. Soon after, I filed for divorce. Feels great to be rid of a woman like you. Just so you know, don't ever send that recorded voice to James. Not just to James, but to no one. I received a message from Joseph. I didn't reply and blocked his number. Thus, my short marriage to Joseph came to an end. Joseph probably just wanted a slave he could control. What does he think people are? He must have thought that once I was married, having no parents, I wouldn't try to escape and would just obey everything. I hadn't noticed Joseph's true nature at all during our relationship. If only I had realized before getting married. I feel disgusted with my inability to judge men. I think I've had enough of romance for a while. 3 months have passed since my divorce from Joseph. My leg has completely healed, and I'm able to commute to work every day. That day, as usual, I finished work and left the office. Just a short walk from the office, someone called out to me. Surprised, I turned around to see a man with a pale face standing there. Joseph? I didn't recognize him at first, but the man standing there was Joseph. Joseph used to be a bit chubby and healthy looking, but now, the Joseph standing before me looked emaciated. Regardless of how he looked, I didn't want to meet Joseph again, so I felt disgusted that he had ambushed me. Did you ambush me? Please stop, it's bothersome. Because you wouldn't respond to my messages or calls, I had no choice but to wait for you here. I don't know where you live now, and I just really needed to see you. His voice was different from before, lacking energy and sounding weak. What do you want? You came all this way to see me, so it must be important, right? I have nothing to do with you, though. I asked coldly, and Joseph, his face contorting as if he was about to cry, begged for help. Why should I help you? No thanks. I said that and tried to leave, but Joseph desperately tried to stop me. Then, please, just hear me out. He pleaded. Of course, I had no intention of listening and walked away quickly, but Joseph started talking anyway. The thing is, after our divorce, I remarried a young woman named Sarah. Apparently, after our divorce, Joseph's promotion fell through. He had been drowning his sorrows in a bar when he met a woman in her 20s named Sarah. She was very cute, and they quickly started dating and got married within a month. But Sarah changed completely after we got married. She's extremely possessive, emotionally unstable, and if I try to tell her anything, she cries and screams hysterically. She's just unmanageable. Joseph said this. I couldn't help but smile and say, "Oh, so she changed after marriage, just like you. A match made in heaven. How nice that you found someone suitable for you." Not nice at all. She keeps messaging and calling me at work, even calls my office. If I don't reply or answer, she cries and gets angry. She's even started accusing me of cheating. She actually stormed into my office the other day. Even as he spoke, Joseph's phone kept ringing. You know, I thought Sarah would be just like you, always obeying me. She said she was estranged from her parents, too. But I was wrong. I can't live with such a hysterical woman. It seemed Joseph had intended to make Sarah his slave too. I felt nothing but contempt for Joseph's incorrigible nature. Your way of thinking is despicable. What do you think women are? You're getting what you deserve. Is that all? I'm leaving now. Wait a minute. I realized I prefer an obedient woman like you. Come back to me. I can't live without someone like you. Joseph's absurd suggestion filled me with anger. Don't make a fool of me. I stayed with you only until I had arranged a new place to live and saved enough for moving expenses. I just avoided provoking you to prevent being beaten or caught. I don't remember ever being your slave. Who would ever get back together with someone like you? As I shouted this, "I found you!" a woman ran up to us, saying. Joseph's face froze upon seeing her. "Sarah!" It seemed this woman was the notorious Sarah. She was indeed cute, but her eyes were bloodshot. "Joseph, why aren't you answering my calls? Didn't I always tell you to answer within 3 rings? She screamed in a shrill voice. "How did you know I was here?" Joseph asked in a trembling voice, to which Sarah casually replied. "I installed a GPS app on your phone, so I always know where you are." "When did you? Hey, when did you put such an app on my phone?" Ignoring Joseph's pale-faced questioning, Sarah glared at me. "Who are you? What are you to Joseph?" As I hesitated on how to answer. "Are you cheating on me? Answer me," Sarah accused Joseph. I had an idea. "Actually, I was just being bothered by this man trying to pick me up." He seemed surprised by my words. It was a small revenge, but it seemed fitting. "Huh? Pick up? Joseph, what are you doing picking up women?" As I expected, the word pick up infuriated Sarah, who confronted Joseph. "It's not like that. It's a misunderstanding. I wasn't trying to pick her up." Joseph desperately tried to explain, but Sarah wasn't listening. Then Sarah snatched Joseph's phone from his jeans pocket and quickly reset it, erasing all the data. "Are you joking? This has the phone numbers of my clients." And Joseph makes a sound of despair. "It's your fault for trying to pick up women. You won't get any allowance from now on," Sarah shouted and dragged a dazed Joseph away. After that, Joseph began receiving even more frequent suspicious calls from Sarah at work, and Sarah often visited the office, getting stopped by security. He became quite notorious and seemed to be embarrassed about it. Tired from his marriage to Sarah, Joseph started making mistakes at work and eventually got transferred, as I heard from James. Even at his new location, he was plagued by frequent calls from Sarah, making him look bad from the start. Meanwhile, a project I proposed at work was well received, and I was invited to take a promotion exam, which I decided to accept. I thought I was done with romance, but the director of the hospital where I was doing rehab for my fracture asked me out, so I went on a date with him. I don't know if it will lead to romance, but this time, I want to make sure I choose the right person and find my happiness.